NXT Takeover WarGames is the night before Survivor Series. I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time. In fact, some of the videos we have had this were titled NXT Takeover Houston predictions. But since the WarGames match is announced, we're just going to redo this whole thing. So we'll go over some of the matches we've talked about maybe the weeks prior, just because of the amazing match that happened as of 2 days ago. And that will happen in Houston. First off, the NXT Women's Championship will be in a fatal four-way match as Kairi Sane, the winner of the Mae Young Classic, faces Peyton Royce, Ember Moon, and Nikki Cross in a fatal four-way. Of course, Nikki Cross won a Battle Royal to get her spot. Peyton and Ember won different qualifying matches on different weeks to advance to that. And as far as this match is concerned, of course, this is for the vacant title. Asuka vacated the title to move the Raw, obviously. And also, that was probably the only way we're going to get the title off of Asuka at that point, because she amounted an incredible streak, a streak that no one, I don't think, can ever topple. It's still going to this day on the Raw roster. But as far as her title reign is concerned, over 500 days as champion. That's longer than CM Punk's WWE Championship reign. That's longer than all the Diva title reigns, all of the, the majority of the original Women's Championship reigns, and a lot of titles actually. Some, even the WWE Championship, excluding names like obviously Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund. Said Bob Blackland. That would have been horrible. Bob Backlund, and many others. Asuka's a fucking beast, and it's insane that what she was able to accomplish. Not saying that she couldn't have done it, but it's incredible to see what that was and what that became, and it literally lit a fire under the women's division in general in NXT when it desperately needed it with all the call-ups before Asuka came in. As far as this match goes, this literally can go either way, because honestly, you look at Ember Moon, she's probably the only one to take take Asuka to the limits at some points, especially in the match in Brooklyn and the match when it was Streak versus Streak when they were both undefeated for a while. Probably the front runner to win this, besides Kairi Sane, obviously. Sane won the Mae Young Classic, was pretty dominant, but also had great matches where, both people got a lot of offense in. It was pretty even at some times. But at the end, Kairi was too strong for all these people in the Mae Young Classic. So, and plus she's been great in NXT, so it's interesting to see what happens here. Peyton, it depends on if Billie Kay is at ringside. Obviously, she didn't win the Battle Royal, so she's not in the match, but she could, there's no rules, essentially, so she could come out there and interfere. And if that's the case, that is a 2-on-3. It's not ideal, but, if people are taken out during the match, and it's just Peyton and somebody else in the match, that could be a factor. And, of course, Nikki Cross is fucking insane. So, I'm not going to bet against her. But if I were to pick someone, I would pick Kairi Sane just based on her coming into the Mae Young Classic. Sure, it seems rushed to give her the women's title right away, but I mean, besides these three women, honestly, this is really the best people you could put against Kairi. But if it was anybody else in this match, it would obviously be Kairi, but it's a toss-up. I would not mind any of these people being champion. It'd be a great moment for NXT, regardless of who wins. Next up, the NXT Championship. Drew McIntyre will defend against Andrade Cien Almas. And Almas has had Selena Vega talk for him, basically asking Drew for the title shot, but Drew wants Andrade to be a man and do it for himself, which he did. Contract signing was a couple days ago. Andrade attacked Drew. Drew already signed the contract prior to that. Andrade signed it. Match is official. And really, I don't know. Because with takeovers, you have to think about things in a different light. Because even though NXT is a great company and a great brand on its own, it is still developmental. And a lot of people hate that, but it's fact, It's still developmental for WWE, and the Performance Center is part of that as well. But, I feel like the progression in WWE right now, if you look at it right now, is normally just go to developmental and then get called up. But now it's Performance Center, NXT, or whatever developmental system there is. There's relationships with Evolve and all these others. So wherever you are, and then obviously the main roster. It's kind of a tri-tiered system there. But at the end of the day, what the point with that is, you have to look at this like, who's getting called up, who's going to Raw, especially with the brand split, who's going to Raw, who's going to SmackDown, who's just going to be Brock Lesnar and do fucking both. Not that that's probably going to happen. You could have done that. You could have done that with Asuka, but you want to at least lock her down to one brand for now before you do that. But as far as this, it's an interesting concept, because at the same time, Andrade's been there for a while, and with Vega by his side, if Vega does interfere in any way, we will have a new champion. There's no doubt about that. But will they call up Drew McIntyre? The only reason I would pick Andrade is if Drew was getting called up to the main roster. And he's been there before, so it wouldn't be like anything new or anything great. Not that it wouldn't be great. I mean, it'd be great to have him on the main roster, but it's not... Him on the main roster has not always been the best thing. If you know his past history, that you would understand why I say that. But I'm going to go for the upset. As probably not a good idea as it is, I'm going to go with Andrade, because if he loses, what can they do with him? I really don't know what they can do with him. Maybe have a tag title run. Maybe. But it's not that he can't chase for the title, but, this is his highest point in his career right now. You go all the way from him being La Sombra all the way to now. And this is the biggest match of his career. And if he loses, I honestly don't know if there's any coming back from that. I really don't. Speaking of coming back from something, Aleister Black faces the Velveteen Dream. This is fucking stupid. And I thought Enzo was fucking stupid earlier. But for those who have not seen the Velveteen Dream, think of a black man trying to be an androgynous prince, and that's pretty much, you're in the ballpark at that point. That's the gimmick at this point. And of course, for me personally, I've always had a sour taste of this gimmick, because it was a few weeks after Prince's passing, and that was, just didn't like it. I just don't like it. I'm not ashamed to say that. I just don't like this at all. I'm pretty honest with things. If I like something, I'll praise it. If I hate it, it will be shit on. It is that simple. But and I'm not saying this gimmick won't work down the line, because it has its fans. But speaking of undefeated, Aleister Black has been undefeated for a long time in NXT, and this will be just another victory for him. And this last one will take a while to go after, better, since it is the WarGames match. So we'll just cut this in half a little bit and see what we can do from there.